May 1945. The war was over, or so they said, but the city, which once smelled of bread, coffee, and fresh rain, now smelled of ash and iron. Houses stood roofless, windows gaping emptily, and the wind blew out the last sounds of the old life. Anna, a 23-year-old woman with smoke-bleached hair and eyes that seemed frozen in winter, stood by the window, looking down at the street. Children once ran here. Flowers were sold. Merchants shouted. Now, only a cat wandered over broken glass. She held her son close. Fritz, a 10-year-old boy with sharp cheekbones and thin arms. His lips were cracked, his eyes anxious. "Mom," he asked barely above a whisper, "is it true that the Americans are already in the city?" She didn't answer. She just ran her hand over his hair, as if checking. He was alive. Outside came a hum, not tanks, no. Cars. Other sounds, more peaceful, yet still frightening. People began peeking out from basements, like shadows, slowly, cautiously. Someone whispered, "They'll come for revenge." Someone else, "No, they say they bring food." Anna stepped outside. The ground crunched underfoot. The air smelled of smoke and something sweet, a strange, unfamiliar scent, like burnt sugar. She saw them first. 5 American soldiers walking down the street, tired, but not hostile. Their faces held no malice, only weariness, the same as everyone here. One carried a large metal box. Another chewed on something and smiled at local children. "Don't be afraid," said the third, young with a buzz cut and freckles. "War's over. It's okay now." Anna didn't understand the words, but she felt the tone. War's over. It's okay. She didn't believe it, but for the first time in a long while, she wanted to. The American took a glass bottle from box, something fizzing and sparkling in the sunlight. He handed it to the boy. "Coca-Cola," he said. Fritz looked at his mother, then at the bottle. She nodded. The boy took it with trembling hands, and for the first time in years, something like joy flickered in his eyes. Anna suddenly realized they weren't enemies, just people. Tired, hungry, alive. And that sweet smell, it wasn't smoke, not ash. It was something new, something that could mean a beginning. Fritz held the bottle of fizzing liquid, as if it were something magical. He carefully brought it to his lips and took a tiny sip. At first, he grimaced, cold, prickly, like sparks in his mouth. Then his eyes widened and he laughed. "Mom, it tickles," he said, almost not believing what he felt. Anna couldn't remember the last time she'd heard him laugh. It sounded strange, awkward, like a foreign sound lost in this dead city. But it was alive, and something inside her stirred. Meanwhile, the Americans were opening their metal boxes. One, the young guy with the freckles, pulled out several round buns from a bag, the smell hitting the nose instantly. Meat, fried onions, bread, fat. The smell of something real, filling, not war but life. He stepped closer and handed Anna a wrapped package. "Hamburger," he said, smiling. "Try." The word sounded like a spell. Anna didn't understand its meaning, but there was no threat in his voice, only simple human kindness. She took the food with both hands, feeling its warmth through the paper. She peeled back a corner and saw something she had never seen before, a bun, meat, some red sauce. The smell was so strong it made her stomach clench. Neighbors stood nearby. Some hid around corners. Some just watched. An old man, wrapped in a blanket, muttered, "They're fooling us, showing how kind they are before taking everything else." But the soldiers didn't look like people planning to take anything. One sat right on the ground, showing kids how to open bottles. Another pulled out a pack of cigarettes and offered them to the elders. Another took out a dented old harmonica and quietly began playing something like an American march, soft, almost cheerful. Anna tore the bun in half and gave one half to her son. Fritz bit, chewed, and froze, as if unsure how to react. "Mom," he whispered, "this tastes good." "I know," she replied, feeling her throat tighten. She ate slowly, as if afraid it would disappear too quickly. The food melted in her mouth, and for a moment she felt ashamed that it was so good, ashamed that the enemy fed her child better than she could. The freckled American sat down nearby, resting his rifle on his knees, wiping sweat from his brow. "Joe," he said, pointing to himself. Anna, she replied softly, repeating his gesture. He smiled. The sun slowly pierced clouds, casting light on his face, making everything surreal, dreamlike. Anna noticed another soldier approach a group of children, pouring cola into tin cups. Kids drank, smacked their lips, laughed, and then one of them began singing an old German song. The American didn't understand the words, but clapped along, laughing with them. Anna watched, feeling something strange inside. Not joy, not relief, just a sense that maybe this wasn't the end. Something else was coming. Something new, different. The Americans brought more than food. They brought the smell of peace. Unfamiliar, sweet, tickling the nose, like the fizz in her son's hands. The next morning was unusually quiet. Not the kind of silence that follows bombing, when ears still hear the hum and the mind refuses to believe it's over. No, this was living silence. Somewhere in the distance, a crow cawed, doors clapped shut. People were stepping outside for the first time in a long while, not out of necessity, but simply because no one was shooting anymore. Anna woke before Fritz. He was sleeping, clutching an empty Coca-Cola bottle, as if it were a trophy. A rare smile was frozen on his face, a smile the war had almost erased. Outside at the intersection, an American truck stood. Soldiers were unloading boxes, placing them atop crates labeled U.S. Army rations. Women from nearby houses cautiously approached, still distrustful. One carried an empty basket. Another held a photo of her husband, hoping to ask if they'd seen him. But the soldiers didn't understand German, and conversations boiled down to gestures, smiles, and short phrases in broken English. Anna approached with her son. The freckled American, Joe, recognized him and waved. "Morning, Anna." "Morning, Fritz." She didn't know what morning meant, but she felt the kindness in his tone. Fritz waved back, a little shy. Joe pulled several candy bars from a box, the wrappers glinting in the sun, the smell sweet, like childhood when Anna's mother baked pies. "Chocolate," he said, offering them. Fritz took one, licked it, and his eyes widened. He hadn't tasted chocolate since the war began. The flavor was almost magical, as if for a brief moment all the evil had vanished. Anna watched the Americans lay out food, feed children, give cigarettes to the elderly, and even soap. One drew a large V on a wall with chalk. Joe noticed her watching and explained. "Victory. Victory." Anna nodded. Victory. But why did she feel not victory, but a strange relief, as if the weight slipping off her shoulders wasn't the enemy, but fear itself? As the sun rose higher, one soldier pulled out a small radio. Music played, light, American, with a rhythm no one in the city had ever heard. Children jumped, clapped, and a woman laughed for the first time in months. Anna stood in the middle of the street, watching Fritz dance with the others, tears welling in her eyes. Not tears of grief, but relief. And maybe for the first time, she truly believed the war was really over. And life. Here it was, right now, smelling of meat, coke, and sunlight. A week passed. The city still looked like a scar, gray, smoky, with empty windows like knocked-out eyes. But life, stubborn as grass, began to push through even concrete. The Americans had settled in the town hall, and now its wall bore not an eagle flag, but the stars and stripes. People watched it coldly at first, but day by day, that flag scared them less and less. Fritz ran to the soldiers often. He was drawn to where it smelled of food, where laughter rang out, where music could be heard. Anna scolded him at first, forbidding him. "Don't go. They're strangers." But the boy just nodded and disappeared around the corner anyway, holding an old tin, maybe to bring something tasty home. That day, the sun shone unusually warmly. Fritz returned carrying a small American flag, cut from paper. "Mom, look," he shouted joyfully. "Joe made it." He said, "We're friends now." Anna didn't know how to react. Friends. The word sounded strange in her head, foreign and familiar at the same time. Meanwhile, on the square, the soldiers started grilling something on a metal grate. The smell spread instantly. Fat bread, meat, onions. Women began gathering from nearby houses. Children poured into the street. One American turned on a portable gramophone. A song played, a soft female voice singing about the sun, about coming home. It was unlike anything they'd known. Not a march, not an order, not pain, just a song about life. Anna stepped closer. Joe stood by the grill, turning to meet, and saw her. "Anna, come, come," he called, smiling. He gestured. "Sit, eat." She froze. Her habit of fearing strangers ran deep, but Fritz was already tugging her hand. "Mom, let's go. They're not bad. Really." She gave in, sitting beside him. She felt the heat from the fire. The soldiers laughed. Someone tried speaking German, mixing up words. One asked how to say hamburger in German. No one knew, and they all laughed. And now on the square, laughter. Real, alive laughter. Anna took a warm bun. She bit into it and felt again that strange taste, the taste of a new world. But this time it was more than food. It was a reminder that people could share, even when they had recently been killing each other. When the sun set, the Americans lit lamps. Their soft glow illuminated faces. German, American, tired, but equally alive. Joe looked at Anna and said quietly, as if to himself, "Maybe peace is this, just people eating together." Anna didn't understand the words. But that night, she dreamed not of flames, sirens, or bombs. She dreamed of something else. The smell of bread, her son's laughter. The next morning, the city seemed to wake differently. Instead of the harsh grind of tank tracks, voices filled the air. Someone repairing a roof, someone hauling debris, someone just standing in the sun, enjoying the fact that there was no longer a need to hide. The Americans helped, hauling planks, setting up stoves, handing out food. But most of all, the city was filled with music. They carried radios, spun records, laughed, sang along. Benny Goodman, Ella Fitzgerald, Frank Sinatra, melodies no one here had ever heard. One evening, Joe brought an old guitar. Its neck scratched, strings off tune, but he smiled. Music survives everything. He began to play, slowly, imperfectly, but sincerely. The sound filled the courtyard where children, women, and elders had gathered. Fritz sat at the soldier's feet, mouth open in awe. "Mom, why isn't he fighting?" he whispered. "He's a soldier." Anna replied after a long pause, "Maybe he's fought enough." Joe finished the song and pointed to the boy. "You come," he said, holding out the guitar. Fritz laughed, shook his head, but the soldier insisted. Small, trembling fingers touched the strings. The sound came out uneven, off-key, but everyone laughed. Joe gave a thumbs up. "Good. Very good." Fritz beamed. Anna watched him, feeling the wall built by war between us and them slowly dissolve inside her. Then the Americans brought out more Coke, chocolate, hamburgers. This time, no one hid, no one felt embarrassed. People approached, thanked them, shared bread in return. Someone brought apples, someone old moonshine. Others just stood nearby, because for the first time in a long while, it wasn't scary to be near strangers. As night fell, the soldiers placed a lamp on a ruined building. Its light softly illuminated faces. German, American, tired, but no longer hostile. Anna sat beside Joe. He gestured. "Husband." She shook her head. He nodded silently, asking no more. Just took a piece of chocolate from his pocket and placed it in her hand. "For you." She stared at it for a long time, then quietly said, "Danke." And, without knowing why, she felt this peace wasn't just sweetness. It was a taste of another life. One without uniforms, orders, or borders. Just people. The night was warm. Somewhere far across the river, dull explosions still echoed, the remnants of war. But here, in this small courtyard, music played, and it was stronger than any cannon. The following days fell into a quiet routine, unusual for the residents of a ruined city. Anna woke to birdsong, a new sound that until recently seemed impossible. She looked out the window and saw streets that had been empty yesterday, now coming alive. Children ran across rubble, jumped over cracks in the asphalt, played hide-and-seek with the soldiers. Elders slowly stepped into the sunlight, setting out basins and buckets, washing, scrubbing, or simply sitting and watching the new day grow. The Americans still remained at their posts, but now not as occupiers, but as strange guests bringing food and care. Joe, the freckled one, became almost a permanent fixture on their little street. He brought chocolate, Coke, and hamburgers, taught the children new games, showed them how to hold a ball properly or build towers from broken bricks. One day, Anna noticed Fritz leading two other neighborhood children outside, a boy and a girl who almost never ventured out. Their faces were pale, frightened. The boy clutched an empty bowl, as if afraid it could be taken away. The girl held an old, broken doll, but still loved it. "Hello," Joe shouted, gesturing to show the children it was safe. "Come," he urged them toward the table of food. Fritz took a step forward, then another, and finally the little ones dared too. Their eyes widened at the sight of buns, meat, and fizzy Coke. They didn't know what to do with this miracle. Anna smiled. Her heart felt lighter seeing that fear was melting, not only in her son but in the others too. Children began playing right on the street. One American brought a ball, another an old gramophone, and music again filled the air. People who had yesterday been afraid to peek out of basements slowly appeared. Someone offered an old chair to sit on, another tossed bread and apples. Anna sat on a fragment wall, watching it all. She noticed Joe laughing with the children, trying to pronounce Gutgemacht in German, smiling when he got it wrong. She saw for the first time that people could be happy after war. But what touched her most was the little girl with the broken doll. She handed it to Joe and said something in German. He didn't understand, but nodded gently and smiled, as if the doll was a gift of friendship, a sign of trust. That day, Anna felt a small miracle. Streets destroyed by war were filling with laughter, smells of food, music, and light. She realized life wasn't just returning. It was slowly, carefully, but surely taking back its place. As the sun began to set, silhouettes of a few more American trucks appeared on the horizon. New soldiers had brought more food and medicine. The street smelled of fresh bread, roasted meat, and Coke. Anna took Fritz by the hand. He held a small flag, cut from paper with Joe. "Look, Mom," he said joyfully. "Now we're friends." She nodded. "Yes, Fritz, friends." And for the first time in months, her chest held no pain, only lightness. Small miracles, which had seemed impossible yesterday, were happening right now, on the streets of her city, among the ruins, among the ashes, among laughter and the smell of food. Day by day, the streets grew livelier. Ruined houses that yesterday had held fearful faces now gradually became meeting points. People brought old chairs, benches, even small rugs, something to sit on and watch life return. Anna noticed neighbors and children beginning to talk with the Americans. Words mixed, German, English, gestures, smiles. No one fully understood, but it was enough to feel a connection. Fritz now ran to the soldiers almost every morning first. He showed them the streets, the neighbors, funny cracks in the walls, small flowers growing through asphalt. Anna watched her son building trust, a trust she had still been afraid to accept. That day, Joe approached Anna with a notebook and a pencil. "Draw," he asked, pointing at the blank page. She hesitated, but took the pencil. Joe pointed to the child, the ruined buildings, the food, the sun, and began drawing roughly, slowly, showing that he wanted her to draw what she saw. Anna drew a line, then another, adding Fritz with his ball. Joe smiled and nodded when he saw her drawing. "Good. Very good," he said. Simple words, yet warm. Later, when the street filled again with children's laughter and the smell of roasted meat, Anna noticed the elders sitting next to the soldiers, quietly talking. They exchanged gestures, laughed. Someone tried American chocolate. The boys and girls who had been afraid to leave their homes now ran between piles of rubble, played soccer and hide-and-seek, frequently pausing to sip Coke or nibble a hamburger. Anna saw, for the first time, that trust grew in small steps. Not immediately, not suddenly, but through smiles, through food, through shared play and music. As the sun began to set, Joe came to Anna. "Tomorrow maybe picnic?" he asked, gesturing to the children and the food. She nodded. She knew Fritz would be happy. She understood that even a small picnic was another step toward making the streets of their city a home again, rather than a place of fear. That evening, Sitting by the window, Anna did not hear the anxious hum of airplanes, did not await explosions, only children's laughter, music, and the quiet sense that the world was slowly, surely coming back. The next day, the city square came alive like never before. Yesterday had been ruins, broken bricks, charred debris, empty windows staring like soulless eyes. Today, people came from all corners of the district. Someone brought leftover apples, another some old bread, someone else a few carrots and turnips stored in the cellar. The Americans laid out their boxes of Coke, hamburgers, chocolate, and other treats, miracles for the locals. Fritz could hardly contain his excitement. He ran from one box to another, showing neighboring children what and how to eat. His eyes shone brighter than ever, hands trembling with joy. For the first time in years, there was enough food not just for him, but to share with friends. Anna sat on a wall fragment, holding the hamburger Joe had carefully handed her, showing how to hold it properly. She watched her son, now coaxing the boy and girl from the neighboring house, to try chocolate, Coke, and meat. Around them, an unusual calm filled the air, punctuated by laughter and conversation, almost unheard here before. The elders found their spots too. Someone sat on a chest, another on a bucket. They carefully tried chocolate and Coke, listened to the music played by the soldiers on an old gramophone. The sweet, almost unreal smell of food floated in the air. Women quietly laughed, chatting among themselves, and some elders smiled for the first time in years without fear. Joe pulled out an old guitar. The sound was uneven, strings pulled awkwardly, but he played sincerely from the heart. Children began to sing along, trying to repeat the melody, though crookedly and off-key. Fritz joined them, producing funny, false notes, and Joe laughed so contagiously that the laughter spread across the square. Anna noticed the little girl with the broken doll. She sat beside Joe, carefully sipping Coke. Her eyes glimmered with wonder. For the first time in months, she tasted something sweet, cold, and safe. For the first time, there was no need to hide. "Look, Mom," Fritz shouted, showing the small house he had built from rubble for toys. "They're our friends." Anna nodded, feeling something soft and bright growing inside her. She saw that trust in strangers returned slowly, step by step, through shared games, smiles, music, and food. Joe gestured to Anna. "Children, food," son to himself. "Family?" She smiled, slightly nodded, and said, "Yes, family." The sun leaned toward the horizon, casting golden light over the ruined buildings. Even the dust floating in the air seemed to glow with the last rays. In the streets of a city that had recently been nothing but ash and fear, laughter, music, and conversation sounded incredible after long months of war. Anna felt for the first time that life could be joyful. Small miracles, hamburgers, Coke, music, children's laughter, filled her heart, bringing a sense of peace. She realized that trust could be built slowly, carefully, even amidst the rubble of a destroyed city, and that these small steps were the beginning of a new life. As evening fell over the city, people began to disperse. Joe sat beside Anna, tired but happy, and quietly said, "Tomorrow, more games, more food, more friends." She smiled, feeling that this promise wasn't just words. It was hope she could hold in her hands, and now she couldn't lose it. The following days turned into a small revolution against the usual fear. The city, which had seemed dead until recently, now came alive in the most unexpected places. Children ran through streets, playing soccer between crumbling walls. Elders sat on chests, talking quietly with the Americans. Women brought food, shared leftovers, exchanged smiles. Anna barely feared leaving the house now. Fritz ran to the soldiers first, showing them streets, neighbors, funny cracks in the walls, little flowers pushing through the asphalt. She watched her son build trust, a trust she herself had still been afraid to accept. Joe, like a conductor of this new life, taught the children American games. They laughed, fell, got up, and played again as if they had forgotten the war. The Americans brought sweets, Coke, hamburgers, and sometimes just sat nearby, watching the little city learn to breathe again. One day, Anna noticed even the old houses seemed less frightening. Sunlight shone through broken windows, and the shadows from the rubble no longer felt threatening. They were simply part of the new life. She saw children arranging little toys along the edges of ruined walls, creating miniature worlds amidst the debris. Fritz ran to her, holding a small flag he had made with Joe. "Mom, look, we can build a new world." Anna smiled, feeling something inside her shift. For the first time, she understood. Fear was slowly leaving, giving way to faith in people, in life, in simple joys. In the evening, Joe pulled out his guitar again. The strings vibrated unevenly, but the sound spread across the square. Adults and children sang along, some quietly, some loudly, but all together. The music became a symbol of their small victory over the past. Not over an enemy, but over fear, over pain, over doubt. As the sun dipped lower, Anna looked at the city and realized that, despite the destruction, despite the losses, the wind of change was blowing here. Small steps toward trust, children's laughter, shared food, music. These were the changes that made life possible again. And she knew tomorrow would be a new day, another step toward a city, toward people, toward herself living without fear. The day arrived that many of the city's residents could hardly comprehend. The first true day of peace. Morning began with soft sunlight filtering through the rubble, illuminating streets that yesterday had held only ash. Anna rose before Fritz, watching the city and feeling its breath even out, alive. The square filled with people again. Children brought old toys. Someone brought flowers. Another, a basket of leftover food to share. The Americans laid out their boxes of food, tried to make it fun, like a celebration. Fritz ran first, holding the small flag made with Joe. He showed it to the other children, laughing, jumping, shouting, "Look, we're friends." Anna approached the Americans. Joe saw her and smiled, handing her a hamburger. They sat together on a wall fragment, watching the children. For the first time in months, she felt that everything wasn't just safe, it was really good. The soldiers brought out the guitar and a radio. Music filled the street, and adults began to hum along, some quietly, some loudly, while children jumped, laughed, and danced. An elder, who had recently feared stepping outside, held chocolate and nodded to Joe, silently saying, "Thank you." Anna hugged Fritz, who held a small flag to his chest. She realized that today was the first day they could believe life had returned. Not fully, not all at once, but step by step. The city gradually came alive, streets filled with voices, laughter, the smell of food. Small miracles, Coke, hamburgers, music, simple friendship between people who had recently considered each other enemies, became reality. Anna looked at Joe, and he nodded quietly, smiling. She knew these days, these moments, were the beginning of something greater. In their ruined city, life had returned, and now nothing could stop it. The sun leaned toward the horizon, casting golden light over the ruins. In this light, people were learning to trust, to laugh, to enjoy life again. Anna realized that peace didn't begin with orders or victories. It began with simple things: food, music, laughter, and human kindness. Children ran between rubble, chasing each other and giggling. The elders sat on old crates, quietly chatting with the Americans. Women shared food and smiled at neighbors. Joe played his guitar, slightly off-key, but full of heart. Fritz tried to follow along, laughing at his own mistakes. Children sang, made up games, and learned to trust the world bit by bit. Anna watched, feeling her chest lighten. She saw that little miracles, Coke, hamburgers, music, laughter, were slowly rebuilding life. Trust was growing again, step by step, through shared joy. When evening came, the Americans lit small lamps. The soft glow fell on tired yet alive faces, German, American, all together. Joe handed Anna a piece of chocolate. "For you," he said. She took it, whispered, "Danky," and realized it was more than just sweetness. It was a taste of a different life, one without uniforms, orders, or borders. Just people. The night was warm. Somewhere far away, across the river, dull explosions still echoed, the last remnants of war. But here, in this small courtyard, life felt alive. Music, laughter, and the smell of food filled the air. The following days became a quiet, gentle routine. Streets that were empty yesterday now buzzed with children playing, Elders sitting in the sun, women sharing food. Even the old, ruined houses began to feel less like traps and more like spaces where life could return. Joe remained a constant presence, bringing chocolate, hamburgers, and Coke. He taught games, played guitar, and shared music. Children ran to him every morning, eager to learn, play, and taste little miracles that had been impossible during the war. Fritz now let other children outside, showing them the streets, cracks, and walls, and small flowers pushing through asphalt. Fear was slowly melting, replaced by trust, curiosity, and joy. Anna watched all of this, realizing that life wasn't just returning. It was rebuilding itself carefully, step by step, through smiles, music, food, and shared experiences. Even small acts, a child handing a broken doll to Joe, someone sharing chocolate, a group dancing to a scratchy old record, felt like victories. By sunset, the city was no longer just rubble. People were sharing, laughing, trusting again. The Americans, once strangers and symbols of war, were now friends, helpers, and part of the slow resurrection. Anna held Fritz's hand, watching him wave a small paper flag he had made with Joe. "Look, Mom, now we're friends," he said. "Yes, Fritz, friends," she replied. For the first time in months, there was no pain in her chest, only a soft lightness. The small miracles of daily life were enough to remind her that trust could return, even in a city that had been reduced to ash. And in that light, Anna understood life, little by little, was beginning again. The sun leaned low, painting the ruins in golden light. In this glow, people learned to laugh, to trust, to simply be. Anna realized that peace hadn't started with commands, flags, or victory. It had begun with the little things: food, music, laughter, and human kindness. The streets filled with life. Children played soccer between rubble, chased each other, and giggled freely. Elders sat on crates, quietly chatting with Americans. Women shared bread, apples, and smiles. Every corner smelled of warmth, cooking, and possibility. Joe strummed his guitar, slightly off-key but full of heart. Children sang, laughed, and joined in games, learning trust in small, steady steps. Fritz led the younger kids, showing them how to play, how to explore, how to be unafraid. Anna watched, feeling her chest lighten. Small miracles, Coke, hamburgers, music, laughter, were slowly rebuilding life. Trust returned not in leaps, but through shared moments, gentle gestures, and little joys. As evening fell, Americans lit lamps. The soft glow touched tired, yet alive faces, German, American, all together. Joe handed Anna a small piece of chocolate. "For you," he said. She smiled, whispered, "Danke," and understood it was more than chocolate. It was hope, a taste of a life without uniforms, orders, or borders. Just people sharing, living, and slowly healing. In that moment, Anna truly believed it. The war was over. Life, messy, fragile, but real, was here. Smells of roasted meat, Coca-Cola, and sunlight filled the city. Laughter and music echoed between the ruins. Trust was growing. Hope was growing. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt possible. Tomorrow would bring more food, more games, more music, more small steps. But tonight, in the warm golden light, life itself was enough.
One story has ended, but there are many more to come. Subscribe to stay up to date with the next story.